Dear journalist, we begin the press conference of Prime Minister Kaja Kallas and European Commissioner Thierry Breton. The press conference will be held in English. Prime Minister, please.
Welcome everybody, and welcome to you back to Tallinn again. It's always a pleasure to share ideas regarding the defense industry, military support to Ukraine, and how we can increase the defense readiness in Europe. I think we are at this very fundamental point where we all have to do more in order to really strengthen the security of our continent. We need to deliver on our promise of providing 1 million rounds of artillery ammunition to Ukraine. We gave it last March, and this March there will be 1 year. Ukraine is counting on us, and we should not let them down. I'm convinced that if we used our stocks, refurbishment possibilities, and also allocate finances for new procurements, we can fulfill the goal. And just a reminder, North Korea has provided 1 million rounds to Russia. If North Korea can do it, Europe can definitely do it. Secondly, we discussed providing Ukraine long-term military support. I support creating a separate 20 billion Ukraine assistance fund and from the European Peace Facility. I hope that we can agree on this soon. We also discussed the defense readiness and the need to increase defense investments. The defense of Europe is a sum of all the defense investments that different European countries have made. In Estonia, we have decided to increase our defense spending to over 3% of our GDP, and our long-term commitment to Ukraine is 0.25% of our GDP for the next 4 years. If other countries do the same, we could together beat Russia, not only in quality, but also in quantity, which is important. I have also great hopes for the upcoming defense industrial strategy. I really commend on your work there. It must boost our production capacity and ensure scaling up production quickly in times of the crisis, to help Ukraine win, but also to increase Europe's own defense readiness. Now, our investments into defense industrial capacity, including ammunition production, critical capabilities, have to grow significantly. So thank you again for coming, and look forward to the future cooperation. We have a lot of work to do in convincing everybody that this is the moment to do it. This is really the moment to show Europe's credibility in defense issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. The floor is yours.
Yes, well, thank you very much, Mrs. Prime Minister Kallas, and thank you again for your welcome here today in Tallinn. Yes, indeed, we are at a crucial moment for our collective security in Europe. And in the war of aggression run by Russia in Ukraine, Europe must and will continue to support Ukraine with all its means, and especially on the military front. We need to ensure that Europe takes more and more its security in its own hands. Our security cannot depend on the elections result outside of Europe. And for this, we need to adapt our defense industry to the new security paradigm we are coping with. And this means producing more, faster, and do it more and more together. And by the way, in this context, I will present, an industry policy at the request of our President, Ursula von der Leyen. It will be done on February 27, and we are now, of course, interacting with all member states, and thank you very much for all your support and contribution in this, Mrs. Prime Minister. So I really wanted to first to thank you, Mrs. Prime Minister, for your personal leadership in this matter. You have been the first one to say that we needed to take this now extremely seriously, including with a probably significant amount of capacity to finance our needs, to enhance our defense industry capacity in its production, but also to continue to increase our support to Ukraine. I think some member states highlight your view, ID, including President Macron a few days ago. And I think it is important because more and more our member states realize that, of course, if we have a political view of what we should do for the next mandate of the next Commission, and we share the view that probably an envelope of 100 billion will be necessary. This is what we made as a calculation with my teams. We need to take care of 2024. 2024 is now, and this is why we believe that it's extremely important at the next European Council that all member states will realize, like you do, like more and more of your peers do, that it's absolutely mandatory to work together and to task the Commission on what we should do to increase our support to Ukraine, which is again our commitment. Again, availability in time and in volume for our defense industry is a question of our way to handle our own security, but also it's important for our competitiveness in Europe. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a time for a couple of quick questions. First question, Herman Kellomees, Delphi, please.
Good afternoon. A question to the Commissioner. The strategy you're about to present, what would you say are the biggest political hurdles you're going to face? Can you describe them and what you're going to do to convince those people who are most difficult to convince? And Prime Minister Kallas, the lead story in Politico right now is that the German defense minister says that Russia might attack NATO in 4 to 7 years. Would you say the Germans are too optimistic? I'm sorry. Yes. Thank you.
I don't see there's no hurdles at this stage. I think I could tell you that all member states are cooperating in this strategy because at the end of the day, it is something that we are building together. That's a bottom-up approach. All member states are collaborating. And this is, again, why, again, I'm here again today. We are very strong cooperation and collaboration with the Defense Ministry here, but also in Estonia, but also, of course, elsewhere. For us, the priority, again, is to make sure that we prepare our industry to be ready. Defense readiness is important. I would like to say one word on ammunition, because you mentioned it, Mrs. Prime Minister. Yes, we took the commitment, we as a Commission, that we will increase our capacity to produce ammunition, especially 155, 120 munitions, shells, capacity at 1 million a year in a year. We took this commitment, let's say, last March, and I could tell you today, here, that we will stick to this commitment. In other words, yes, the capacity of production of ammunition in Europe will be over 1 million by March, April this year, which was our commitment. But as you know, we also launched an initiative which is called ASAP. We are finalizing now the evaluation of the project. We will be able to fund the project, and thanks to this, we will continue to enhance our production capacity, probably around 1.3 to 1.4 million production of ammunition at the end of this year, and continue to increase significantly next year, so that, yes, we will stick to our commitment. Now, of course, it is in the hands of the member states to make sure that what is produced in Europe, in their own manufacturing plants, is going to Ukraine. We believe it's a priority, but it's not in the hand of course, of the Commission.
Yes, I think what we can read out from this is that all the countries in NATO are really realizing what we have said all the time and what NATO's documents say. Russia is a threat to NATO's security. Russia is a direct threat to NATO's security, not to NATO's borders, but NATO as such. And there is no news for us in that regard. I think what is the realization is that we all have to do more because the threat is real. And as the more people that have much better neighbors than we do realize that, the more there are also political decisions to invest more in defense, the better our defense readiness in Europe is and is not dependent on anybody else outside Europe. Thank you.
One last short question, please. Vahur Lauri, Estonian television, please.
Thank you. About the capacity, and the question goes to our honored guest. How to achieve this? Last March, the head of the Estonian Defense Procurement Agency said that the capacity to manufacture artillery shells needed for Ukraine per year is 500,000. And this 500,000 is not manufactured for Ukraine, but for other countries that have actually ordered these munitions from the European industry. Another problem is that I have heard, correct me if I'm wrong, that many components to manufacture these munitions come from third countries, for example, China. So how to achieve this goal to manufacture 1 million shells solely for Ukraine? And when should it be done? And what is the capacity at this very moment? What we can manufacture in Europe? Thank you very much.
So, I will repeat what I said a few minutes ago. By the end of March, April, we will be able to produce 1 million shells per year in Europe. In other words, we will stick to our commitment. I cannot give you the figures today because this is something which is confidential, of course, but I can again tell you that we will be at 1 million again at the end of March, beginning of April. And I'm telling you also that we will be, at the end of this year, around at a capacity to produce between 1.3 to 1.4 million ammunition shells in Europe. So now, you mentioned the supply chains, which is needed in order to make sure that we'll be able now to produce more than 1 million, which is our commitment, and we'll continue to do this again in 2025. We need to secure the supply chain, and of course we started to work with all companies that didn't wait now to secure new supply chains. You're absolutely right. Some of them were coming with countries where we believed it was important to have double sourcing or triple sourcing. It started now. This is why we have the ASAP program. We will announce the support, financial support, of between 20-25 companies, manufacturing plants, to make sure that we'll be able to tackle this dedicated bottleneck in Europe. So again, this is, we are on our way. Now, coming to the second part of your question, with this capacity to produce 1 million shells, of course, we need to make sure that most of this is coming to Ukraine in priority, because this is where there is an urgent need. But this is in the hand today in the member states which have big capacities in their own territory. The High Representative of the Commission, Joseph Borrell, believes that today probably 40% of our production in Europe is going outside of Europe. So we need to make sure that now everything we are producing is going in priority in Ukraine to make sure that we'll be able to deliver what is needed in Ukraine for Ukraine.
Thank you. Our press conference is over.